Unveiling Strong Delusion. Video 18. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abram pitched his tent, and he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. Genesis 12:8. Between Aix-en-Provence and Béziers. Video 8 identified Aix-en-Provence as Ai or Hai, and identified Béziers as Bethel. Abram pitched his tent between those two towns in Poitiers, or the town of the wells, today known as Beauvais. Having Bethel on the west, 107 kilometers or 67 miles, Béziers or Bethel lies to the west of Beauvais, where Abram pitched his tent. And Hai on the east, 110 kilometers or 68 miles. Abraham ben David pitched his tent in Poitiers and created one of the most famous schools of the Kabbalah in Europe. Abraham ben David, or Abraham of Poitiers, or Rabad, created the Kabbalah. Abraham ben David of Poitiers also means Abraham of Genesis. Father of the Kabbalah. The Kabbalists look upon Abraham ben David as one of the fathers of their system, and this is true to the extent that he was inclined to mysticism, which led him to follow an ascetic mode of life and gain for him the title of the pious. He frequently spoke of the Holy Spirit or Elijah, disclosing to him God's secrets in his studies. No person played a greater role in creating the Kabbalah than Abraham ben David of Poitiers. Historians tell us Abraham ben David lived from about 1125 to 1198 in Provence. Like Abraham of Genesis, Abraham ben David led a great religious movement. Historians tell us Abraham ben David died in 1198. That means he died around the time of the Third Crusade, near the end of the 12th century, or shortly before the crusade against the Cathar, which began around 1209. A future video will show Abraham continued to live for 7 more years in his secular role. 7, as in Zion. Historians tell us Abraham ben David studied at Lunel before forming his own school of the Kabbalah in Poitiers. Like Abraham of Genesis, Abraham had great wealth and paid for the room and board of many of his students. Abraham ben David's wealth brought envy. Elziar, the lord of Poitiers, threw Abraham in prison. Abraham ben David had a much more powerful political ally, Ro-Ger II of Carcassonne, who intervened and banished the lord of Poitiers to Carcassonne. Abraham in Genesis had powerful enemies and friends also. Ro-Ger II of Carcassonne. Ro-Ger II Trincaval ruled Carcassonne, Béziers, Raz, and Albi in the Occitania area from about 1167 to 1194. Ro-Ger II Trincaval went by the title proconsul, just like in the Roman Empire. Ro-Ger usually went by the title proconsul de Piteres, Béziers. Roman proconsul Ro-Ger II Trincaval protected Abraham ben David when faced with danger. Ro-Ger, Spear of the Sun. Ro-Ger II of Trincaval and Ro-Ger II of Sicily have the same name. In English, people pronounce Ro-Ger as Ro-Ger. Ra means the sun in Egyptian. Ger or Gar means spear in a number of older European language forms. From the late 12th century to the mid-13th century, the Trincaval and other noble families of Occitania fought to defend themselves and the Cathar way of life against Frank Levite forces from the north. They had a few short-lived victories, but in the end lost. In the end, young King Louis XIX, or St. Louis, emerged victorious. Ro-Ger II ruled a large part of this area. Abraham, critic of Moses ben Maimon. Abraham ben David acted as an intellectual critic and opponent of Maimonides, or Rabbi Moses ben Maimon. He accused Maimonides of introducing Aristotelian thought into Talmudic thought. Students of Abraham ben David. Among the many learned Talmudists who were his disciples in Poskier were Iaac HaKohen of Narbonne, the first commentator upon the Talmud Yerushalmi, Abraham ben Natan of Lunel, author of the Ha-Manhig, Meir ben Isaac of Carcassonne, author of the Sefer HaEser, and Asher ben Meshulam of Lunel, author of several rabbinical works. Rabad's influence on Jonathan of Lunel also is evident, though the latter did not attend his lectures. Isaac the Blind, son of Abraham. Abraham ben David of Poskier had a son called Isaac the Blind, and it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here I am. Genesis 27:1. Isaac the Blind, great Kabbalist. Historians tell us Isaac the Blind lived in Provence from about 1160 to 1235 AD. The Jewish Encyclopedia calls Isaac the Blind the founder of the Kabbalah. Isaac the Blind gave the names to the 10 Sefirot, or emanations of the Ein Sof. Isaac is considered the founder of the Kabbalah, or rather, he transmuted the mysticism of the Geonim into the present form of the Kabbalah. Geonim were the presidents of the two great Babylonian Talmudic academies of Sura and Pumbedita in the Abbasid Caliphate, and were the generally accepted spiritual leaders of the Jewish community worldwide in the early medieval era, in contrast to the Resh Galuta exilarch, who wielded secular authority over the Jews in Islamic lands. Gerona, Spain, just south of France. Azriel or Israel of Gerona. Historians tell us Isaac the Blind had a famous student named Azriel of Gerona, or Girona, a town in Catalonia, Spain, just south of Provence. The center of the Kabbalah in Gerona was established by the disciples of Rabbi Isaac the Blind, especially two great writers, the elder Rabbi Ezra ben Solomon and his younger colleague, Rabbi Azriel. Azriel and Ezra, Jacob and Esau. Some scholars refer to Azriel and the older Ezra as brothers, although no one knows for sure. Isaac had two sons, the older son Esau and the younger son Jacob, who became Israel. Azriel or Israel, son of Isaac. Historians do not call Azriel of Gerona the son of Isaac the Blind, but do refer to him as Isaac's most important student. This video identifies Azriel as Israel and the son of Isaac. Abraham, Isaac, and Israel or Azriel created the Kabbalah. A future video on the burial place of Sarah will connect Abraham to the Zohar, a foundational work in the Kabbalah. The video on the burial place of Sarah also will connect Abraham and Zohar to a major Catholic religious order. Double roles of Abraham and Jacob. Abraham and his grandson Jacob played dual roles in the historical play. Beyond their roles in the Kabbalah, each had an important secular identity. A future video will identify the secular Jacob and his supremely important role in the advancement of music in Europe. A future video will identify Abraham's secular role as a warrior king and supreme politician. Thank you for watching. The next video will discuss the Crusaders and Moses. Permission to copy and translate. The author permits any human being to copy and rebroadcast this video in whole or in part. The author permits any human being to translate this video into any language.